Next presentation is What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Steve Groff, the cover crop coach. Steve is a cover crop coach from Pennsylvania. He is presenting on What Got You Here Won't Get You There for the past 2 decades or so. The driving factor for soil health movement has mostly been environmental issues like erosion and water quality. There's a new opportunity emerging that has to do with the market, those you sell to, offering or even requiring soil health practices on your farm. Steve will discuss real life situations where this is happening and how it may affect your farm in the future. If you don't understand where the future is going, you may be in danger of becoming obsolete. Please welcome Steve Groff.
Hey, well, thank you. I just better check first before we go here. Are you able to hear me properly?
Pretty decent. It'd be nice to live a little bit longer.
I'll speak up here, and I'm gonna advance my first slide. Do you see the second slide there with the boy in the ditch?
Yes, we see
Yes,
that.
we got it. Yep.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everything's working. So, well, hello, Wisconsin. I so much wish I would be there with you guys today. But hey, this is better than nothing. It's what we can do in this era of, I guess you'd say, COVID regulations or whatever. But just want to share with you some of the things that I have been involved with here in the past couple years, really focusing on a shift that I see in why we do conservation. So a little bit of my story. This is a picture here of actually my son. Is a couple years ago. I just took a picture of the ditch in the field. You can't see that is on a 12% slope, but it is. This is actually in my neighbor's field. I wish I would have took pictures of my fields when I started no-till back in 1982, and I did it for one reason only, and that was to try to curb soil erosion, because I didn't like filling up the ditches in the fall before I harvested my crops. So that's what motivated me to look into no-till. It had nothing to do with soil health. And I really didn't start using cover crops till a little bit later on. But as we fast forward to today, what motivates you as a farmer, or you as a crop consultant, or you as an organization to help farmers see the value of being more conservationally minded, or regenerative agriculture is kind of the term we're using here today. So a little more of my history. I did get into cover crops early on. This is way back in 1984. We now call this planting green. We're planting into cover crops that are green. And I must admit, I did not do it exclusively from then on, but I did do it. I was kind of pleased to find this picture here a couple years ago. Now that planting green has kind of become popular. And moving forward to the mid 90s, I heard about a cover crop roller in Brazil. And as far as I know, I made the first cover crop roller in the United States in the mid 90s. And now it's kind of a common thing we talk about at these meetings. So it's a little bit of my history. Fast forward again to 2001, that's when I started the tillage radish. Most of you probably heard of that. I know it's been used quite widely in Wisconsin. That started on my farm with the help of University of Maryland back in 2001. I developed it and formed a seed company out of it. I'm no longer in the seed business, more in a consulting role with cover crops now. But again, just a little bit of the history. So today's topic, just want to start out with some perspective here. You can't buy soil health. It has to be made. And that's something that, you don't think about sometimes. It's your management that is going to make the difference whether or not you achieve soil health or not. And there's all kinds of things you can buy or that you can do to produce soil health, but you can't buy soil health. It's something that your management as a farmer has to be done to make that, to accomplish anything. So, some questions here. Do you know how to manage your soils in the way they were designed to function? And I'm emphasizing that because, those of you who are sitting in the room there, those of you who are watching this from wherever, your soils are all different. Do you know how to manage your soils, or even variability within soils on your own farm or the land that you farm? Have you ever thought about that? The second part of the statement, in the way they were designed to function. It's important to understand that so we can maximize some of these biological principles that we're going to talk about. And in case this intrigues you, I'm going to recommend a book that's a really easy read called The Soil Owner's Manual by John Stitka. Some of you probably have heard about it, but this here will give you a good idea and explain a lot of things. It certainly helped me, and that's why I'm passing it on. A very easy read, something I'm sure will inspire you to understand a little bit more about how your soils were designed to function. You see, complexity and diversity are all a part of nature. Your soils right there in Wisconsin were formed by multiple species and had living roots in the soil at all times, right? That's pretty much a given around the world, except there's a few areas of the world that are desert, but that's not who we're talking to today. So that's how our soils were formed. Multiple species, living roots year-round, diversity. We could say complexity. Look at any woods today. You know, it's probably covered by snow like it is around here, but you know how your woods looks. And that is the way nature, that is the way soil was formed. And we have to think about this in the context of how your soil was designed to function. How can we mimic that? Now, I'm not suggesting that we grow our food by foraging for berries and nuts. That's fun to do on a Sunday afternoon, or maybe when you're like this picture here, I was raking hay. I saw these wineberries, which we have in our area here. They're wild. I stopped. I picked some wineberries. But you know what's interesting? Those wineberries grew with zero inputs. I'm sure if you would add a little fertilizer, they could be bigger, but they grew. They taste good. They're probably very nutritious. So, but how can we learn from nature? What can we learn out there? So, winding back time, this is how my soil used to look. My son is 24 years old now. I showed him this picture a couple years ago, and he said, Dad, he said, that can't be our soil. I said, it is. Notice all the little stones. We used to moldboard plow, disc, harrow, plant, cultivate 2 or 3 times, like for these squash I used to grow here. This is what we see. This is what my soil looked like. Fast forward to today, I want to have my soil covered with living roots all year round. I'm trying to mimic nature. Soil is meant to be covered. Yes, it presents some challenges in the colder areas, but we have row cleaners in our planters and things like that that we can, you know, try to work around that. Remember, I said management. That's important. This is a picture here where we rolled hairy vetch and cereal rye, planted 15-inch corn for silage, took the silage off, came back in with my 15-inch precision planter and planted a mix of cover crops there. There's nothing better in my mind than to be able to plant cover crops through the previous cover crop residue and having grown a cash crop in between. This is my goal. Don't achieve it all the time in every acre. I'm going to admit that to you right here today, but that's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do. What has happened over the years? My organic matter has increased. That's measurable. It's because of management. Yes, cover crops, no-till, diversity, all those things are components, but it's really how I managed it. The soil is changing, and that's just really great to be able to see that. So personally, here's some of my goals. What are your goals? Some of mine, though, are I want to try to lower my inputs wherever I can, and it's kind of a learning curve in how to do that. I'm steering away from commodity crops, and you may not get that. I understand it. I've been a lifelong vegetable farmer, so I do grow some vegetables. I haven't grown soybeans lately. It's tempting this year. The price is better. I haven't grown grain corn. I don't have animals to feed it to. I've grown silage corn for my Amish neighbors. That's been something I've done. But I'm going to steer away from that because I have other opportunities I'm going to share with you later. I'm also producing increased nutrient density. And maybe a new one for some of you, but I believe you want to consider it because growing a healthy food product is either good for the animals it's being fed to, or if it's fed to humans, it's a benefit of that. We're not getting all the details of that today. I just want to put it out there. Of course, I want to make a profit, but all the foundation here is diversity, diversity, diversity. I use that word a lot because diversity is found in nature, and we've got away from that in agriculture, and for a lot of reasons. And I get that, I understand that, but I think we as farmers need to start challenging that in our own farms. How can we be more diverse in our operations? And I think that's important. Here's a little bit of my diversity journey, if you want to call it that. I'm not going to read this all to you. I just want to make a point. I've gone from just a few, like a half dozen species, to now over 24 species, both cash crops, cover crops. Diversity. I want you to remember that. Diversity is kind of the secret, if you will, to make some of these biological things happen. And, you know, I understand the constraints of markets, but even so, you know, looking forward into the future, you may have market opportunities you don't know about today until you do some of these principles here, and one of them is diversity. Mindset matters. How do you think about these things? How do you think about what I'm talking about so far? You might think, well, I'll give this a try. That's noble. I appreciate that. Or I'm going to make this work. And when I say I'm going to make this work, that's not haphazard, I wish luck on myself. It's not that. It's a serious attempt to make this work. You've been reading about it in magazines. You've been talking about it. Your group's been doing a lot of things here. And this is what it takes. It takes a network of people to make this happen. So which mindset are you? Just going to challenge you on this. Which mindset has the best chance to succeed? Well, it will be the second one. I'm going to make this work. You may fail, but try not to make your failures very big. Of course, we want to stay in business. That's why we have each other. My talk today is to inspire you. My talk today is not to give you specific details. I don't farm in Wisconsin. If I would move to Wisconsin, I would have to learn a few things. I'd be talking to you guys. I know enough friends in Wisconsin that I knew who I would start to call about the specifics. The problems you have, the challenges you have, the specifics that you have are going to have to be figured out by those of you sitting right there in the room. I can see you. And those of you who maybe are online here, you're going to have to work out the specifics of this. And it's not easy, granted. It's not easy no matter where you go in the world. So I'll just put that out there. But we are way ahead than we were 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, with some of the ideas that are coming forth here in our current age. Let's go back to my woods analogy. You guys have woods and forest in Wisconsin. You know, what can we learn from this? This is my woods. When I look at this in the summer, I'm gonna guess I took this in June or July. Beautiful, vibrant green. Guess what? How does that work with no nitrogen applied? No pesticides applied, no other fertilizer applied, no foliar feeding, nothing. How does things grow like that? Did you ever take a soil test in your woods? It's amazingly low in nutrients compared to what we're used to in our field. Why does that work? I'll just tell you. It's because of the biology. The biology that is present in that soil is somehow making all this work. I'm not a soil scientist. I can't explain it. I'm a farmer. I look at things very simplistically. I look at the woods and say, how does anything grow there? There doesn't appear to be deficiencies. How can I apply that to growing my crops? I don't have all the answers to that today, but I'm asking that question. So that's just, you know, where I'm at and all that. I want to work with nature. So over the years, we've been taught, what am I going to kill today? Is it a weed? Is it a bug? Is it a disease? That's our mindset. Killing, killing, killing. That's our mindset. How about I offer this? What if our mindset would be, how can I get more life into my operation? How can I mimic nature? How can I nurture it? This may not be a 180 here, but what I'm trying to do is get a point here we're seeing a shift today in this time of history where we're moving away from killing everything that we don't like to try to enable more life into our operation. Something for you to think about. Most farmer education comes from retailers selling their products. Do you agree with that? That's usually what you hear. Who are the champions promoting soil health? Think about that. You guys can come up with some names. You got some in Wisconsin. Who are those that are promoting it? Probably not your pesticide or your fertilizer dealer or John Deere or Case International, or name your brand. They're not the ones that are in the forefront. Oh, they're trying to catch up now because it's starting to get cool to talk about soil health. And they're starting to work it into their program and everything, which is nice. The champions that are promoting soil health are generally farmers, and I will say some university folks and some NRCS folks. And just like not all farmers are promoting soil health, not all university folks are, not all USDO folks are, but there's some of them out there is, and that's who we want to be listening to today. Nobody's selling soil health. Remember I said that at the beginning, you can't buy soil health. And in one way, that's a little bit of a challenge we have. But that's okay, because I would rather we figure this out on our own and figure out how to do it. You can't buy soil health in a bag or a bottle. Again, it comes back to that management that I talked about. Getting back to our friendly salespeople, and I'm sure there's some in the room there. I'm not trying to offend you, just trying to make a point here, but general inputs that we use in agriculture is the fear of losing yields is a powerful marketing tool, right? Did you ever take the amount of yield that you can increase if you would buy all the products that are listed in a successful farming magazine? You know, this product you put on your seed, it's going to give you 5 bushel. This product you put on foliar feed, fungicide, it's going to give you 8 bushel. You start adding them up, we should all be growing 500-600 bushel corn, right? If we use all these products, you know, I'm just trying to make a point here. So the fear of losing yields is a powerful marketing tool. I'm not against, trying to give the caveat, well, don't always look at yields, you got to look at profit. But then again, isn't that what we should be looking for? Profit at the end of the day? Yields are great and we need yields. But I think we ought to take a little mind shift here of looking at what our total profitability is. And I'm going to say utilizing the biology that's right under our feet in our fields, be able to do some of the stuff that some of these inputs have done. But some of the problem here, researching the influences of biology is slow. We don't have time. I want to know data this year. Everything we do in agriculture is pretty much on an annual basis. And that's kind of where we're wired. Biology sometimes takes 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to really kick in. And sometimes we don't have the time, maybe economically or whatever. It's also hard to quantify. It's hard to measure. And it's affected by many variables. So kind of a loaded statement here, but you have to understand this when we're trying to do some of these biology things. So here's something I want to give you is, you need to understand what you're trying to accomplish before you do anything almost. What are you trying to accomplish? Like for me, less soil erosion 38 years ago, less soil erosion. That's why I started no-till. Maybe you want more organic matter. Back 38 years ago, I knew about organic matter, but I was told you can't increase organic matter. I remember at meetings, you can't increase organic matter. Well, we proved that wrong. Maybe this is really appropriate. More resilient soil to weather extremes. Is that what you're trying to do in your farm? Or as I'm going to share a little bit more toward the end here, maybe it's a marketing advantage that you may have. Could be something else as well, whatever that may be. So why are you doing this? And the reason I'm saying this, that you need to have this in your mind is you probably won't get instant results from the things I'm talking to you about today. It took a long time to degrade our soil to the point it is today, decades, centuries. I think we can build it back fairly quickly because we know a lot what we're doing now. and we're going to be learning more in the soon near future. There are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts, and that's something that is very important to understand. I feel that you need to think of it in the context of a 10-year plan. If you're looking into what I'm calling the system, understand the system. This is a really cool picture. I'll leave it up a little bit. You can kind of see there, this is 3 years. This is your typical corn, soybean, wheat rotation, which is a nice rotation. Cover crops planted in between. I love this picture, this graphic, because it says so much in there. But what I really want to convey to you today is if you're thinking about moving forward with regenerative agriculture principles, you have to have a 10-year plan in mind. Not that you have everything figured out in year 10. It's more of a mindset. But some things the first year you do it may work, may not. But you have to understand the system is long-term. That's really important. I like to say, you got questions, we got answers. I alluded to this before. The answers to your specific questions, those of you who are listening to me today, are probably among the attendees of this webinar. It's also other farmers, the NRCS, university, industry. You know your people. Get to know the people who have similar values and similar goals in mind that you want to do. So here's the thing, the story, and I'm going to say this is regenerative agriculture. That's the term I'm using today. You can interpret that, kind of how you want, but the story is very compelling to the end users of our products. You can tell a non-farmer that cover crops keep nitrates out of their water. And then you pause a little bit, and then they're going to say, really? Oh, that's really good. How does that work? And then you can tell your story, and almost 100% of the time, you will become a hero if you tell them why you're doing that. Now, if you want to debate genetic engineering, GMOs, the use of glyphosate, good luck. I can argue both sides of those stories. This story here of cover crops, of soil health, is very compelling to the end user of our products. And a lot of us never meet the end user of our products, but I'm telling you, it's coming into focus more and more. I'm leading you up to this here, where that's going to become more important as the years go by. So let's step back into reality. What are the challenges? Well, the cost of seed, the cost of cover crop seed, the cost of establishment, it's an expense that's out there. Maybe specialized equipment that you need to manage these cover crops. And I know there's varying levels of ability and experience sitting in this audience today. I'm not going to go into details, but some of the other challenges that you need to admit to, I guess, or acknowledge is the lack of knowledge. We're still very young in this whole movement. We still don't have a lot of experience. We don't have a lot of research. Research takes long. It's difficult to get multi-year research out there. And we generally don't have a lot of experience. There are farmers out there who've been doing this for a while. You want to tap into those people so that you can learn. But here's one of my take-home messages. And any of you have heard me speak before, you've probably seen this slide, but I just can't take it out because I think it's so compelling. You got to treat your cover crops like your cash crops. When you do that, you're going to stand a good chance of success. But here, it's based on what are you trying to accomplish? In this case here, maybe it's water erosion, could be wind erosion some places. Understanding that, I said that before, but it's so important, so critical to get you started in the right spot. I wanted to share a little experience here. I was in Bulgaria a couple years ago. It was springtime. The farmer was there, is the guy on the phone on the left, and he had just planted in that green cover crop the day before. He was planting squash. That was a crop that he grew, and actually it's interesting, he grew it for the seeds, not for like the squash that we would typically grow it for to make pies or something like that. That's a big thing in Bulgaria. And so I was kind of saying, well, how did you hear about this? And he said, well, I saw you, meaning me, on YouTube videos. I watched your YouTube videos. I thought I'd try it. And I thought, oh boy, well, I kind of hope this works. It's going to make me look bad, And so then I was looking around, looked down the ground, I saw these two ladybugs. So I'm taking this picture here that you see. And he said, what do you see? And I said, oh, I see two ladybugs. And you would have thought he hit the lottery. He goes, it works. It works. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, that's what you said in the video, that the beneficial insects will come. And I thought, All right. Now I'm his hero. Well, that worked out pretty nice. I was actually right there at his field to show him. So it made me feel good, of course. But here, do you know what you're looking for? Do you know what you're looking for? Do you know what the signs are of success in a regenerative system? There's some of these things are obvious. Providing beneficial habitat for beneficial species of insects and so forth. But do you really know what you're looking for? You got to learn. I can't explain it all today. It's too much, but you have to be active in learning. You just can't throw on cover crops and expect miracles. And that's, again, sometimes there's too much hype out there. You've all heard the guys who I call them cover crop cheerleaders that are out there. And it's good. We need our cheerleaders, don't get me wrong. But sometimes there's reality here. We have to learn how to use them correctly. You wouldn't take a brand new tractor without knowing anything about it and just, hop on it and without reading anything about it. I mean, you got to understand how it works. Usually when you choose different hybrids for your corn or the alfalfa you plant, whatever, you want to learn a little bit about is this like wet spots or not? You have to understand this. So you have to treat your cover crops like your cash crops, and then you'll probably get a benefit from them. This is a farmer friend of mine from Pennsylvania. He lives in an area that tends to have wet springs or wet soils, clay soils like, and here he's using the cereal rye to grow out the moisture. This is latter part of May till he gets around here to plant. And what's nice is that place usually gets really dry in August. And then he's going to have that mulch there to hold in the moisture. So I like to call this the marriage of technology and biology. It's the foundation for agricultural progress now. So these are some of the things that we're using out there to apply some of these principles. Now, a year ago, I was down in Argentina. I had heard that Argentina was 95% no-till, and frankly, I didn't believe it. So I got there. Sure enough, it is. But they don't use many cover crops, and it was interesting the reason why. But here is a proof of that. On one of the days I was there, it rained overnight. We went out to look at this farm where the farmer was doing some test plots. On the left was been no-till for a long time, but no cover crops. On the right, he used cover crops for the past 5 years. You can see there the water infiltration, there was a marked difference. I wish you could have been with me that day and walked the field. You could actually feel the difference in the soil itself just from your shoes, just walking over it. But I just show this as this is where cover crops can help in helping the soil in the way it was designed to function. And I wish I could tell you more stories from Argentina. It was a fascinating place to see, very, very flat, and all the challenges that go along with that. Going back home, this is me in my field here. This is waiting a little bit longer than normal, letting my cover crop grow. We tend to have wetter springs. The last 5 years have been wet. We'll probably do a dry one. But, here we're letting our crimson clover and hairy vetch grow out. I'm planting 15-inch corn into that, and we're going to do silage. This field across the scales is 27 tons of silage. That included an acre and a half that had bad deer damage along the woods out there. Only 80 pounds of N. Only $5 worth of herbicide. What was interesting is the Amishman told me later on, he said, that silage really fed good. Now, I'm sure there was genetics involved in the corn and everything, but I would like to think there's something about the way it was grown. Less nitrogen, maybe less herbicide. I don't know exactly. I'm not going to try to make any claims here, but I love that when people say it. I've had that just told me again this year, came from the exact same field. Another neighbor told me the corn I got from you fed really good. Back to my home county, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania. Just as a typical part east of Lancaster, this is more what I call the good part of the county. I live in the river hills, not as good as soil. What I wanted to show you here is this is actually, I had a friend of mine who's a pilot. We went up in the first week of December to take some of these pictures here. And you can see how green it is. Now, there's a few of those fields would have been small grains and a few of them would have been hay, but a lot of cover crops grown. And it's all because of the influence of the Chesapeake Bay, which you've probably heard about. But we're looking at 65% cover crops, 70% no-till. That was primarily done because of the awareness of the water quality in the Chesapeake Bay. You guys have your own watersheds I know you're dealing with, but that was kind of the spark plug to get this going. You know what's interesting is in 2019, that's 2 years ago now, of their Pennsylvania corn yield contestants, I thought this was fascinating. 71% of the entries into the yield contest were no-till, and actually 35% had a cover crop. That was amazing to me. And I just thought how far we've come. I'm still waiting on the 2020 data. I got some of it, but not enough to complete it. Interesting. What about the Chesapeake Bay? Are we making a difference? That sounds impressive. You may have your own little watersheds that you're trying to clean up. It takes decades to clean them up. But the Chesapeake Bay is starting to improve slightly. Since 2015, it bottomed out and it's starting to improve slightly. So we can do a difference. I met with the mayor of the little island down there in the middle of Chesapeake Bay. I went down there. We filmed a documentary film on how the results are encouraging. And the film is called Living Soil. It's called Living Soil. You can look it up, livingsoil.com. That's livingsoil.com or livingsoilfilm.com. It's on the slide there right now. Profiles a bunch of farmers around the U.S. I mention this not because I'm in it so much as you'll see a lot of other farms that are featured. And it will just show you what farmers are doing now that are successfully in this. You see, cover crops make good farmers better and bad farmers worse. Now, I'm the first one to raise my hand. I've had cover crop failures. That doesn't make me a bad farmer. Make your mistakes small. But it really comes down to management. That's really the point here of being a good manager and how to do that. Now, here's a key thing that I don't hear enough of people talking about. Who is your mentor? Who is your mentors? Who do you relate to help you to learn some of this stuff? This is Frederic Thomas, friend of mine from France. I've been over there 4 times. He's been to my place. My birthday was just 2 days ago, on Monday. He called me up my birthday. We talk a lot, at least once a month. We're kind of, we run the ideas by each other, and it's been a lot of fun. I have other mentors. I'm part of WhatsApp groups. I'm part of Twitter groups, part of Facebook groups. All these things is somewhat what's behind success. I would encourage you to do that. Pick your mentor as someone who is doing what you want to accomplish. Remember I said earlier, you got to find out what you want to accomplish. Pick the people who are doing that, if at all possible. And better yet, if they're in your neighborhood, that's really ideal. Doesn't always happen, but that's who you want to go to. So, what are some of the factors that affect cover crop adoption, maybe for your farm or your community, your area? Is it regulations or is it the market? It's been primarily the regulations. That's what got us here. But I see a shift happening. It's to the market now. That's what's going to get you there. This is the basis for the title of my talk today. I would rather educate than legislate. And we all as farmers, we resist being told what to do, but if we don't clean up our act, someone is going to tell us what to do. And I think there is a way here we can do a better job on the farm, and then the environment will take care of itself. So some of the keys here, again, underline what I've been sharing. Learn all you can, but understand where the future may be going. This might make some of you a little nervous right now. Do you understand where the future is going? How will that impact your farm? So I wrote a book called The Future Proof Farm. I'm going to mention it later on. You can get it at stevegroff.com. And I have a chapter 2 is She's Your Boss. And I'll just go over how the typical, or maybe I should say stereotypical millennial shopper out there, they're concerned about how their food was grown. Now, when you read my book, you'll see that I will clearly say that that person may or may not understand the realities of agriculture, but in one context, we got to understand what that person wants and what they want and how their food is grown. You can't ignore that. So there's opportunity here to supply that. And big companies are taking notice. Some of you may have heard of the company Bonduelle. I know that they have some processing vegetables in Wisconsin. Their headquarters is in France. I went over to Hungary, this company invited me to reach out to their field managers. But this company is promoting basically sustainable type principles. You don't need to know French to know that their tagline there means something about nature, and it is the future. So, you know, large corporations are taking notice of this because it's their customers. Eventually, they're your customers too. They want to know how their food is grown, and we can provide that. This is me in Hungary at the Bonduelle, at one of their sweet corn factories. They have 25,000 acres of sweet corn goes through that factory. Actually, it's more than, yeah, that's what it is, 25,000 acres of sweet corn. They have some other crops as well. But it was, I got to tell you, the field managers were a little skeptical, but the upper levels of management were kind of almost forcing them to listen to me. And after we were done, I think they got it. But nonetheless, it was just an interesting dynamic to see a major company like this have me over there to do that. Now, on a more personal note, I'm a vegetable farmer. I grow some squash. This is at a company called Sweet Green. This is one of their, it's a soup and salad place. This is just south of Washington, D.C., about 2.5 hours south of me. Our family went in there. They, you know, as typically now these days, they list the farms up there that grow the food that they're being served. And so the place was pretty busy. I wanted to take a picture in front of this sign. And I stopped the gentleman and I said, hey, you mind waiting a little bit? My wife wants to take a picture of me here because I'm a farmer here that grew this squash. And he looked at me and he said, are you a farmer? And I said, yes. He reached his hand out on his initiative. He reached his hand out, shook my hand, said, I never met a farmer before. And it was kind of a moment. And you know what I thought of? I never get that treatment at the grain elevator. You know what I'm saying? And it's nothing against grain elevator people. I'm just saying, they appreciated the personal touch. Again, not all of us get this opportunity. I don't every day, but it was just really neat to see that because the company Sweet Green, by the way, you can't grow from them unless you have a story. You have to have a story. My story is no-till cover crop diversity. That's my story. You have to have a story. It's not going to cut it if you're just a conventional farmer, trust me. So there's opportunities. I was contacted by them because of the way I grow my food. Now, do they give me a premium? No. Do they pay me very fair? Yes. And that's kind of what you can expect in these things here. They pay me very fair. I cannot complain about the price. So I greatly appreciate it. The latest thing is, they said, can you grow crimson clover tea? I said, what do you mean? They said, yeah, just crimson clover. You grow the cover crop, right? And we went, yep. Last year, I grew 250 pounds dried crimson clover, just like you see there, the cover crop, crimson clover. You cut the top 3 inches off. Now they just ordered 500 pounds for this year. Who would have ever thought it? I'm growing crimson clover tea that they are selling in their restaurants. So, you know, talk about a value-added cover crop. That's pretty cool. You know, 20 bucks a pound, not bad. So just saying, opportunities out there. I also grow for Whole Foods. I grow pumpkins and squash and tomatoes. They have a ranking system that they use. And soil health, if you look down there on the left-hand side or right-hand side there, you'll see that's a big part of the score. It gets me in. That's what got me into Whole Foods. And you know, it's the story. It's what I've been doing here. And I'm not organic, by the way. You might have picked that up for now, but I'm not organic. And I'm saying there's plenty of options out there. I'm not against organic. It's just I'm not organic. There's plenty of options out there if you tell your story and how that works. Clean pumpkins. That's what got me into Whole Foods. You got clean pumpkins, we want your pumpkins. And that's a value added because I'm growing them in cover crop. I'm growing them no-till. The pumpkins stay clean. So that's a market that I got. 75% of pumpkins grown in Pennsylvania are now no-till. And mainly it was really driven by the fact that they're much cleaner. So it's kind of interesting to see that. So soil health opportunities, new markets. What are your markets in Wisconsin? I really don't know. I gave you some ideas what I'm doing. These also, once you get into these soil health principles, lower cost, more profits. And I've heard many farmers tell me it makes farming fun again. And that's kind of cool when you can hear that. What's the public perception out there? I'm a board member of the Pennsylvania No-Till Alliance. We have these signs we put up around the field. Having blooming plants out in the field, it's kind of good public relations. You can tell the story. Many times my neighbors have asked, what are those sunflowers? What are you growing? Can we take a picture there? Yes, you can. Or neighbors who text me, where did that crimson clover go? And I said, well, I just rolled it down yesterday and we planted corn into it. You know, things like that. That's fun. It's a nice thing to do for the neighbor. It doesn't pay the bills, but it gives good public perception, and that's worth something. This is what got us here. A lot of environmental aspects that we're healing the soil now. We're doing a relatively good job, I feel, in the direction we're moving in that. That's what got me started, the soil erosion. That's what triggered me to go down this path. And I live, again, in the Chesapeake Bay. You can see there's arrows coming in. That's after a rain event. This is a photo from a satellite. This is a real picture. You can see the dirty water going into it'd be the western side there. And you can see now, you know, this region, I live there in the middle of it, kind of. This is kind of what has driven us to this point. And I'm sure you have the same thing in your area. I want to challenge you today. I want to challenge you to do 10% better. That might mean 10% more cover crops. It may mean using some mixed species. It may mean doing something to get your cover crops planted earlier. Whatever that 10% means, that's the challenge I want to give to you today. That you can do a better job in your soil health principles that you're doing. And here's the reason. What got us here may not get us there. There are a lot of companies with a plan now that include soil health. You can see them listed there. You're well acquainted with them. I'm sure you recognize all these companies represented. You probably heard about this. And it may not have trickled down to your farm yet, but it probably will. Here's a broader list here. You'll see ADM on that list. You'll see Cargill on that list. They're all involved. And sooner or later, there's going to be an element of sustainability, an element of soil health that you will probably need to have implemented on your farm in order to sell your products. And this is what I'm getting at. This is what's going to get us there. This is how I see it today. I have been consulting for Wrangler, Wrangler Jeans, headquartered in Greenville, North Carolina. They have what they call their rooted collection. Look it up on the internet. Rooted collection, Wrangler jeans. You can buy blue jeans that were made from cotton grown with cover crops and no-till, but you're going to have to pay 99 bucks for them. And you know why? Because people will pay that. Why? Because of the story. Go on the website. You'll see all the farms listed. You'll see them in their story. And that's why people are paying for them. I don't buy $99 jeans. Happen to get a pair, the perks of working with Wrangler, but there's what I'm talking about. This is an example. I know there's no cotton grown in Wisconsin, but there's other things out there, and this is spreading. They took me actually to Thessalonica, Greece a year ago to help this being birthed in European countries. So it's just interesting to see this dynamic happen with what the opportunities that might be out there. Is this a valid opportunity for Wisconsin? What is your story? Think about that. What are you doing in your farm that counts toward a soil health practice? What might Cargill, ADM, or your local grain buyer be requiring in the years ahead? Maybe you're saying, Steve, you're just full of it. Don't think I am. I see enough of movement toward this that you got to be thinking about this, that this may come down the pike. Will the market get you there in the next 10 years or so? Will you seize the soil health opportunities? Or maybe you'll become obsolete. I'm not saying this is a threat. I'm just saying it as an observation where I see things going. I see it as an opportunity. And now's the time to learn all you can. Excuse me. Where is agriculture headed? Is it more toward tillage, more toward monoculture, more toward no cover crops there on the left? Or is it more toward keeping the soil covered, more toward crop rotation, more toward cover crops? I think you know the answer. I hope today that you guys from Wisconsin got some new ideas. I hope this stimulated you. I hope it inspired you to be able to adopt some new practices and try some new things on your farm. I have wrote a book called The Future Proof Farm, Changing Mindsets in a Changing World. This is something I think you'll enjoy reading. It's very inspirational. It's not technical, but just a lot of some of what I shared today, some of the stories where I see the future going and the opportunities that you may have. So stevegroff.com, go there, you can pick it up and I'll ship it out to you. I believe soil health is our future. This is my granddaughter, showing her her first earthworm. It was almost emotional for me, for her, is my first grandchild, to show her a soil health, the evidence of soil health, the earthworm. She, of course, was greatly intrigued. To me, it meant so much more than that, because I believe she will be concerned about how food is grown. And I, as a farmer, want to take that opportunity to meet the needs of food and nutrition out there in our society. So thanks so much for inviting me to speak today. I don't know if there's time for questions or not, but I'll hang around here as long as there is. So I'll just turn it back to you.
Can you hear us?
Thanks, Steve.
I can.
This is Jamie. We do have a group here that is meeting face to face, so it is open. I unmuted you all. If there is some questions, feel free to reach out.
Ask them what the 27-ton corn silage field. What kind of soil is he working with there?
Steve, just to reiterate that question, that 27-ton corn silage field.
Yes.
What kind of soil was that you are working with?
Well, it would be characterized as a silty clay loam. That's where a lot of my soils are here. I don't know if you need the soil type, probably not familiar to you guys out there, but a silty clay loam, almost, it's close to divided up 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 of that. So I think that's the question you're asking.
Anybody else? We are open for a couple more minutes yet if there's any further questions.
Steve, just curious, your involvement with the Field to Market program. The group has 1 year of data in there now.
Okay. So I'm aware of it. I'm not directly involved with it. Do you know anything about it? I mean, do you want to share?
No, asking from your end.
Well, I see several of these things popping up, and I'm really glad to see it because it kind of helps to, pull together some data, and it's, we just need to get some reality here of how these things work. So again, I'm not directly involved with Field to Market. I know about it, so I really can't comment. I haven't heard any updates in the last couple months to really comment on anything about any of their progress or anything. So that's just where I'm at on that, but yeah.
Steve, have you had any contact with the EU on their green plan?
So I do have contact. I've been there 6 or 7 times, and I'm always fascinated by what I hear. And part of what, as you all well know, there's most of agriculture is subsidized. And we would probably say heavily subsidized, but I would say in all fairness, they have some more expensive inputs and so forth as well. So I always try to figure out if what they're doing, how different it is to us. But I'll say this, that the organic push is stronger in Europe than it is here from the government. So you have all these green type programs that are mainly pushing people toward organic. I'm going to say my non-organic regenerative agriculture type friends are a little frustrated about that because of that demands a lot of tillage. So for the most part, it's difficult to eliminate tillage in our organic system. So there's a little bit of a conundrum there. That's the frustration that I hear. I'll just tell you a quick story. and it has to do with the use of glyphosate, which is very much they try not to use it anywhere. But in order to terminate a cover crop, you can't make the first termination with glyphosate. It has to be with tillage, which kind of goes against the no-till concept. This does vary slightly from country to country, so it depends which country you're in, but a large portion of it. So what they're doing now is they're getting things like vertical till tools, or just things with tines that are made just to scratch the soil. Actually running them through the cover crop fields first, basically kind of function as a roller to flatten it out. It does very little tillage, but since it's considered a tillage tool, it accomplishes that. Then they'll come back and they'll spray some glyphosate on. It's a little trick. It's a little loophole. And it amuses me that kind of stuff goes on. But I've seen it. I took lots of pictures of their primary tillage tools, which actually are very, very, very light tillage, in order for them to then subsequently follow up glyphosate. So their big issue there is basically organic versus glyphosate. I'm not sure if that's getting at your question, but that's an observation that I have seen.
No, that's just, as a corn grower on the association, that's one of our challenges with other markets is get in the EU is that the green plan is hard to us to compete with, but I just figured you'd talk to some of the farmers and
Yeah.
Any other questions?